But I think many regards, the police officers cruising around in their cruisers, Jay, are out of touch with many of the neighborhoods that they supposedly are serving and protecting. And instead of having, if they'd have known this gentleman and know what he does out there on the street, maybe they could have been a little proactive and stopped him and helped him out and maybe getting him some real gainful employment.
We don't know that they didn't.
But
we don't know that they didn't do that.
Yeah,
especially the fact that the reports are that the stores in the area reported this guy many times.
But I think the police many times, instead of serving and protecting, are becoming more aggressive, if you will, with dealing with situations that I don't think, I wasn't there on the street, obviously. I wasn't there on the street.
That's another thing.
I think there were situations that could have been handled differently with maybe a better outcome, and we wouldn't be dealing with some of the bullshit we're dealing with now with the, protests and so forth.
So what are we supposed to do now? Now these cops, and going with your way of thinking, these cops are now supposed to make judgments on who they should not arrest because of what people are going to say?
To me, to arrest a guy for selling cigarettes on the street is bullshit. If the guy's doing that to survive and to make some money for his family, I got no problem with it. I don't even think the cops should even been hassling the guy. Well, that's just my opinion. Well,
that goes back. Now, wait a minute. Now, and you may have a point there, but this goes back to the state. These are state laws. These are state. You're not allowed to do that. It's against the law to do that. Right. You cannot open up a pack of cigarettes.
Little kids to have permits to sell lemonade. What kind of stupid stuff is that?
It's getting ridiculous now. Where do you draw the line, Ernie? As simple as selling loose cigarettes seems to be, you are still breaking the law. Now, had he just been arrested and taken a shot in the arm, or maybe they should have given him a ticket, I don't know. You may have an argument there. Give the guy a ticket, send him on his way. Okay, maybe they could do that. But when a cop tells you to put your hands behind your back that you're getting arrested, when you resist arrest, now whose responsibility is that? Is it the responsibility of the cops or the responsibility of the person?
Once you get to that point, it's the responsibility of the person to listen to what the cops say.
Right, exactly, and that's my point. But you raise a good point.
Bullshit it is, but to me, there's bigger fish to fry than hassling somebody on the street selling cigarettes singly to make some money to support his family.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's my take on it. If I was a cop on that beat, I wouldn't arrest the guy. All right, I'll tell him, maybe go over in this alley.
Well, maybe they did that. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound like it.
It sounds to me, from what I've heard, that they've encountered
they
this
knew
guy
this guy
before.
has been doing it for a while, right? And the stores were complaining.
Yeah, and when you got complaints, from the stores, you can't just turn. How many times can you turn your head and say, give a guy a break? Again, we don't know that they did. We don't know that they didn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the whole thing is because the grand jury decided not to indict this cop. I mean, look at the guy in Ferguson, that cop there. They didn't indict him. That guy's not a cop no longer. He turned in his badge and his gun.
Right.
I mean, that's.
Well, he did that for his brother officers, so that backlash won't be probably as bad.
Not only that, I think he was afraid for his own life as well. I'll tell you the truth. Then you're going to go out on the street, get back into the uniform, go back onto the street with the same people that are protesting against you, and now you're going to have to shoot somebody else. So maybe he did the right thing there. I don't know. John Biven, what say you?
I was just reading what Mandy said in the chat room.
And what did Mandy say in the chat room? Because I haven't gone there yet.
Said, unlike that brown kid who was just a nuisance to society and only had a real future in a prison to which taxpayers would have to deal with, it's useless to stick up for or want to stick up for a thug who wasn't contributing anything to society except for being trouble.
That's pretty straightforward and pretty blunt there, Mandy. Very good. Let's see exactly. She agrees with you, Ernie. Wasn't stealing. I don't know about stealing, but he was definitely breaking the law. And again, and I have to side with Ernie on this only because I don't know what the whole story is. If they have confronted this man before, we know it's not the first time he was out there selling these cigarettes. Okay. Now, to die over this, no. That should definitely not be. There's no reason for that. But, when you got a man that's 300 pounds and you've got, officers who are, and he was no slouch either. This guy was tall, I think, if you look at the video. He towered over the first.
The cops shouldn't even have been in his face like that. That's the bottom line, in my opinion.
Yeah, but Ernie, again, we go back to if this man was told time and time again, you got to stop what you're doing, you got to stop what you're doing, you got to stop what you're doing, and he didn't, and the businesses in the area are complaining, what are the cops supposed to do? Let him go again? It's time to get you off the street.
I tell the businesses to deal with it. Deal with it. You want to be in this neighborhood, that's the way it's going to be.
You can't do that, Ernie. Now you're talking anarchy.
If I'm the cop on that beat, Jay, I'm telling you, I'm not going to bother the guy.
But then you're not doing your job.
I'm looking for the crack dealers out on the corner selling cigarettes.
I get that.
That's what I'm looking for.
And I get that.
I'm looking for a guy selling cigarettes.
But he's still breaking the law. That's the key point. And I get what you're saying.
That's a bullshit law.
Well, and then get it changed. But this is the state now and the city. These are their laws. These are the laws they put into effect. The federal government says you cannot sell cigarettes out of a pack that you've already bought. You know why, Ernie? Because they're not getting the tax money that they just got $3-4 on a pack of cigarettes.
I equate it to, Jay, there's a lot of gentlemen out there that come through our basketball board, try to get on the board, and they can cite you chapter and verse on the rules and regulations of the game. But when it comes out to applying them out on the floor in a contentious game, they have no clue. They have no clue.
Okay. And that's I agree with you on that one. But again, you can't compare the law to a basketball court, Ernie. I get your point, and I do, and I agree with you. But you can't compare, a police officer.
Well, all I'm saying is technically it's against the law. Okay, all right. But, when you're applying that law, what kind of bullshit?
Use your discretion.
It's like somebody going, the speed limit's 30 miles an hour and you're going 31 or 32. Okay, well, I'm breaking the law theoretically. But do I deserve a ticket?
I say no.
I say no also, but you're breaking the law, Jay.
Yes, but if the cop decides he wants to give you that ticket, there's nothing you can do about it because you broke the law. Right.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the bigger problem.
And there we are. Here's Rick is here, ladies and gentlemen. What was that, Ernie?
That's not going to be something you're going to enforce, are you?
Most people probably not, but you got guys out there that
that's what I'm saying.
Work by the letter of the law.
Applying the laws.
But again,
unless you're in Memphis.
Yeah,
in that case, they do get you for 31.
There you go. So there are places that do it. But again, if you're told by a cop that you are breaking the law, you need to comply to what they're telling you and not fight them. Because if you fight them, you lose every single time.
But I'm saying, why are they even getting themselves into them situations, the cops? They're being aggressive, man. They're looking for shit. They're creating shit.
Now you're saying things you don't know.
I think they're creating shit. They're creating situations and problems.
But
they're part of the
job,
problem.
Ernie.
They're not part of the solution. They're part of the fucking problem.
I don't know. See, there I don't agree with you on that one.
Now, I'm not saying 100% of them. I'm not saying
are there guys out there?
There are a lot of
sure, but not the
law
way
enforcement officers. But there's a lot of assholes wearing a gun and a badge, Jay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can't argue that. But it's not most of them. And most of the cops in this country, if not all of them today, are being what's the word I'm looking for here? They're being thrown under the bus. All of them. It's not a few of them. It's not some of them. They're not picking one or two. They're saying all cops are like this. And I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it.
Well, I don't believe that either.
That's the argument. Yeah, are there a couple of people?
Larger percentage than we'd like to admit to.
Well, then maybe it's time to find out. Maybe that's the discussion we need to have instead of having people out there throwing the whole system under the bus. When you break it down, the guy didn't do what he was told.
Agreed.
And that's the bottom line, And if you had to break it down, was the cops right in doing this? Yes, because he broke the law. Doesn't matter, minuscule, big, tall, short, murder. You broke the law, and they have the right to do it.
All right, so when you don't report the $15 you made at your garage sale on your federal income taxes, you just broke the law.
That's right, you did.
Should come kicking your door and throw
No,
you
I
around.
didn't say that. But if they choose to,
fry.
they
can have bigger fish to fry.
Yes, but you can say that about anything, Rick. And once you start, doing that with the rule of law,
should be prosecuted. Every last one of them cops, all 6 of them, should be prosecuted.
For what?
Including the black sergeant that was on the scene that allowed this to happen. First and foremost, the chokehold is a banned chokehold. Let's talk about breaking the law.
Well, if you look, now wait a minute, hold on a second. Let's take this step by step. You said it was a chokehold. If you look at the video, it really wasn't a chokehold. He grabbed him from under his arm and around the neck because that's the only way that he could have got this guy because of how big he was.
6 cops to take down some guy.
Yeah, one big guy, 300 pounds, 6'3".
Who's selling Lucy's while meanwhile...
Who's resisting arrest now. He's resisting arrest. It's not just the cigarettes anymore.
See, that's the bigger problem. That's the bigger problem. Resisting arrest for selling fucking 25-cent loose fucking cigarettes.
Matter.
The only reason why it's against the law is because now the state's not getting their little tax.
Exactly, but it's still a law. So how come you're not yelling at the state?
Let's let the crack dealer that was standing on the corner watching it go down.
There was no crack dealer standing on the corner.
While the cops are wasting their time with some guy that's selling fucking
because that's
cigarettes.
That's not the case here, and we know that's not the case. And now you're making shit up.
What am I making? What? There's
a crack dealer standing on the corner while they're taking this guy down.
Shit up. I'll bet you $200 right now that there was a crack fucking.
All right. So how are you going to prove
some
that?
Some type of drug dealer.
So where's the proof? If there's the proof, then I agree with you. But without the proof, you're condemning a whole section of people for doing their jobs.
Cops. I was condemning 6 cops that I believe, in my opinion, used excessive force and were way out of line, and I feel should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Well, let me ask you this. If this guy didn't resist arrest, do you think he'd still be alive?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? The answer is an unequivocal yes. If he did not resist arrest, he would have been alive today. Knowing fair well his size with his medical conditions couldn't sustain a fight with cops like that. Knowing there's 5 cops around you.
Hey, listen, how do I agree with you. I agree with the fact that we can't expect cops to go around and get fucking medical.
There you go, and that's my point.
And I agree with that. But I also feel that the problem is behind all of this is there's a bigger problem that nobody is looking at, and this whole cop deal is just a surface problem. The bigger problem is the fucking laws, and right now the laws that the cops are focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, why are 6 cops wasting their fucking time with a guy selling fucking cigarettes when there are certainly plenty of gosh darn drug dealers around town that they could be going after and throwing in chokeholds? But we're wasting our time and our taxpayers on this kind of bullshit when there's real crime happening.
Well, when you've got business owners calling the cops saying the guy's a nuisance, they got to go and they got to.
He has
again.
A right
we don't know
to do whatever he wants on a public street.
No, he doesn't.
Nuisance or not.
No, you don't. No, see, now you're getting out of hand. No, you don't have the right to do whatever you want. There are laws you must follow, and if you break the laws, you have to answer for it. And when it's time to answer, you don't answer by resisting arrest.
There's nothing. I've seen the video a couple times now, and to be honest with you, it breaks my fucking heart when I see it.
Yes, it does. Without a doubt, I'm with you.
I can't believe what I'm seeing. I think they were out of line, and I think they should be prosecuted. And again, that's my opinion, and nobody's going to change that. I base that on what I've seen, on what I've heard in the video, and no one will change my mind on that.
And you're right to have your opinion. You have a right to that. But opinion and law are 2 different things.
Yeah, well.
So now what you're saying is that the process of the grand jury, however it, excuse me, however fallible it is wrong. Is that what you're saying?
I can't say it's wrong because I didn't get to see. I'm not privy to see
exactly my point.
The evidence that the grand jury got to see.
Exactly my point.
I'm assuming that the grand jury saw the same video evidence that I saw.
Yes.
But they get a little bit more then you
Yeah,
know that
that's